Hi everyone, welcome back. This is our last week of the farm. And so instead of just centering and learning just about animals, we're going to take a look at the farmer. And so later we're going to read a story that has a big surprise at the end called A Day in the Life of a Farmer. And before we start, I have some news to share. I'm very happy on one side, but I'm very sad in another way. I'm really happy because in July, you can come back into the Ward Museum and we can do this in person. And I'm very sad because this is going to be my last video. So I hope you come in to see me at the museum and we can do all this great stuff here. So for our last video, we're going to, like I said, read the story, A Day in the Life of a Farmer, with a very surprise ending. And we're also, for our craft, we're going to make a tractor. And anyone who knows anything about farms knows that this green and yellow tractor is a John Deere. And this is our shape one today because we're going to be talking about rectangles, we're going to be talking about circles, and we're also going to be talking about squares and triangles. Very, very funny thing how we're going to work that one in. But before we start our shape one, I just want to show you two other pictures of a farm. This is what a farm looks like at harvest time. And this is called a combine, and we'll learn a little bit about that in here. And the combine is a big tractor type machine that goes through and cuts, and I believe this is wheat, and it cleans, separates the seed, the good part, from the shaft part that we don't use it for anything. And the good stuff gets put into a truck and taken to a silo or bin. These big guys on the farm. So this is another picture of the barn where they store their equipment, and the silos or bins where they store the grain or the corn or whatever it is that they're harvesting. So let's go ahead and make our shape tractor. Inside our bag, you'll have a big piece of blue paper. And this poor thing's been sitting in here for a little while, so it's a little curly. So the way we straighten it out is we just roll it real loosely the opposite way. And it should flatten it out a little bit. There we go. Isn't that better? So we have our blue paper. That is for our sky, a big blue rectangle. Now what else do we have in here? Remember, save your little brown bag for something else. In here, we have a brown rectangle that we're going to use for our soil. We have a black rectangle that we're going to use to cut out pieces. We're going to cut circles, two different size circles for the wheels, and we're going to cut little ones for the door handle and the little smokestack type thing. And then we have a green square, and you're going, well, Miss Mary, there's no green square on the finished picture. Well, that's because we're going to turn this green square into rectangles. And then we also have, hopefully you remember to save this from the rooster, we have the yellow that we're going to use for our window and for our sun. So let's get going. I'm going to take this white paper and show you how this square can turn into two more different shapes depending on how you fold it. If you take one corner and go to the opposite corner like this, across it, and you fold it down the middle, you end up with what? A triangle! But if you fold it the other way, like this, which is what we're going to do, and you fold it down the middle, you end up with rectangles. So we're going to fold it like this and make a rectangle. So let's put these guys over here for a minute. So we're going to start, and this is very good practice for eye-hand coordination. You line up the edges, put it on the paper, and then you crease it. And this is where you're going to cut along the line to make, instead of the one square, we're going to end up with two rectangles. So let's do that. And you know, if you don't cut it directly on the line and it gets a little bumpy, that's okay. That just means that your tractor has been out working in the field and it's got a few bumps, but it still works, so it's perfect. So we have our two rectangles. And then we're not going to cut the brown, and we're not going to cut the blue. So let's put our green rectangles over here because this is our pile that we're going to be gluing. So then we have our black rectangle, and we need to get two tires. And if you've ever really looked at the farm equipment, you'll see that the front tire is a different size than the back tire. It is smaller, and the back one is bigger. And that's for the traction that it really needs. So, how are we going to make the circles? Well, Miss Mary left her things over on the table. So let me get them. Hold on. Sorry. Okay, so I am using these things I found in my kitchen. If you have a younger sibling and they have, you know, those stacking toys that stack, you could use those. If you don't have anything like this, you could find, like the bottom of a cup or bottom of a glass. It would be different sizes. So you're going to trace that onto your black. And in this case, are you going to be using a black one, marker or crayon? You could, but you wouldn't be able to see what you had to cut. So instead, I'm going to use a white pencil. Not everyone has white pencils. So if you don't, you know what you could use? If you have a white crayon or a yellow crayon or maybe even an orange crayon, you want a light color. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to use the yellow crayon. And I know it's very hard to see, but you can actually see this yellow circle. So it would be easy to cut. And I'm going to use the white one on the big one, and hopefully you'll be able to see this one a little bit better. But it is very, very hard to see. If you had a piece of chalk, you could use the chalk. So I'm not sure if you can see that circle or not. But, so I have my big circle and I have my little circle. So I'm going to cut them out really quickly. And if you're worrying about what happens if I don't cut right on the line, well, we can just pretend that your tractor is out in the field and its tires are in the mud. So it looks like it's a perfect circle, but that's okay. So now I have leftover, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just, not even using a guideline, I'm just going to take my scissors And I'm going to take one little snip here and one little snip here. And it didn't quite match. And I'm going to get a little black rectangle that I'm going to use. I'm going to put my tires over here. And then for this little guy, I'm going to make a smaller little one. And I'm just going to go where I already cut. And I'm just going to go up just a little tiny bit for the door handle. And then here is my door handle. This little guy, little door handle. So now I'm to my last thing I have to cut out, which is my window. And so I had this much yellow paper left. So I'm going to make this really easy on myself. I'm going to fold it again instead of using something to draw. And so what I'm going to do to make sure I have a good line is I'm just going to decide how wide I want my window. And then I'm going to match it. Remember, I'm using my eye-hand coordination. And I'm going to go like this. So I've got the one cut. So I'm going to go ahead and cut along this line. And this is way too big for my window, so I'm going to go ahead again and I'm going to decide how wide I want my window. And I think this is a good size. So I'm going to match it again, fold it, and cut along this line. Oops, now I have my window. And I have some extra yellow, so I'm going to go ahead and make a sun. And for this one, I am going to use my black one so I can see where I have to cut. And in a moment, I will be ready to start to show you how we glue this tractor. All these shapes, how we put them together to make a great picture of a tractor. So now I have my sunshine. So now I'm ready to glue. And for me, I'm less messy if I use my glue stick. And because this is all just paper, the glue stick is a perfect thing for it. So I'm going to start by gluing my dirt onto my blue paper, which will be my sky. So you're going to be, this is another thing where you're matching edges. When you glue this, you're going to be matching it to the bottom of your blue, like that. So, do I need to glue all over it? Not really. All I really have to do is glue along the edges. And as always, we're gluing the small part and putting it onto the big part. So already we have our empty field, our dirt, and our sky. So we're going to take our two green rectangles and we're going to make this tractor. So we take the one, and just like the dirt, we glue along the edges, and we place him part of the way on the dirt and part of the way up in the sky. And then we take our other green rectangle and we glue along the edges. And what we do this time is we match it to the part that's already down here. So now we have the beginning of our tractor. We're going to go ahead and take our window, go along the edges, and on the window you almost glue the whole thing. Place the window up here. And then our tires, and remember the big tire goes on the back. So he goes half on the green and half off of the green. And then our smaller one goes on the front. And the same thing, half on the green, half off the green. So it's starting to look more and more like a tractor. So now we're going to take our little black, not the tiny little one, but the little one. Just give it a little wipe with the glue stick, and we put that on the front. And then if you can still find your little tiny black door handle, you put that over here for the door handle. We're almost done. We have one more shape, the sun. So let's glue the sun and put it up in the sky. And now we have our own tractor. So come and listen to our story and stay for the very end because there's a big surprise at the end. See you soon. Welcome back, everyone. We just finished making a tractor, a shaped tractor. And so now we're going to look at a book called A Day in the Life of a Farmer. And let's see if you can find the tractor that this farmer uses on his farm. Here we go. A Day in the Life of a Farmer by Heather Adamson. When do farmers start their days? Farmers start their days very early. Every day, Farmer Dave gets up while it is still dark. He puts on his coat and walks to the dairy barn. He pulls on his gloves to milk his cows. Farmer Dave will milk the cows again in the evening. And the fun fact is that one cow can make 8 gallons of milk in a day. Wow! And it says that it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm still asleep at 5 o'clock in the morning. What do animals eat? Well, many farm animals eat food grown on the farm. Farmer Dave feeds his cows a mix of hay and corn. He also gives the farm animals vitamins to keep them healthy. And so here you see, now it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm still in bed. Here are the cows, and they're getting ready to eat. Why are there so many buildings on a farm? Farms have many kinds of buildings and bins. Some buildings hold animals. Bins and the silos store the grain, kind of like your wheat or corn or soybeans. Many farms also have sheds to protect their machines. Dave keeps tools in his red barn. He needs a wrench to fix one of his tractors. Now it is 7:30 in the morning. I've been up now. Do farmers work by themselves? farmers need help to do their jobs. Families or neighbors sometimes work together. Since it is a weekend, Dave's children help feed the animals. Farmer Dave has hired an extra worker to help with the harvesting. Now it's mid-morning, 10 o'clock. And as you see, this boy is feeding the horse. And she's got some hay or straw up there to eat also. And here we're getting into the machines. Here's a tractor. What does a combine do? Farmers use combines to harvest the crops. The combine cuts down the corn stalks, and then it separates the kernels from the corn cobs. Dave parks a tractor and a wagon beside the combine, and the combine unloads the corn into the wagon. And this is all before lunchtime. And who takes care of the farm machines? Farmers must learn how to keep their machines running well. Over the noon hour, Dave greases the engine. He cleans the dust out of the combine's hopper, and then he takes care of his machines so they will last longer. So you see him working on it, and it's 12 o'clock, and this is when most people stop and have lunch. You can see the cornfield looks entirely different than it did early this morning because the combine has cut down all the stalks and taken the corn kernels off of the cob, and all of that stuff is waste in a way. They use it for some things, but the corn goes off to a special place to get weighed and sometimes sold. Oh, and that's the next question. What happens to the corn that is harvested? Some farmers sell their corn to companies that make food for supermarkets. Farmer Dave uses his corn to feed his animals. An auger lifts the corn to the top of the bin. So here, it's in this wagon and it's going up here and getting dropped in to this bin. And the corn will stay fresh in the bins and the silos all winter. And where do the farmers live? Farmers usually live on their farms. Farmer Dave parks his tractor in the shed. After milking the cows again, he walks to the house to clean up. And then he sits down to eat with his family. It is good to be home. And it says that the average American drinks about 24 gallons of milk every year. Some drink more, some drink less. But here's the family sitting down for dinner. It's 6:30 in the evening. So he's had a very, very, very long, busy day. And so here we're showing some of the equipment that he has, that he uses. And here are the wagons that are pulled behind the tractor, and they're used for hauling the things he's harvested. And here's the door, the farmer's hat. This part where he rides is called the cab. He has the headlights. He's wearing boots to protect his feet because the work is very hard and some of the equipment is very heavy, and if a cow or a horse accidentally stepped on his foot, ow! They weigh a lot, a ton, and that would break Farmer Dave's foot if he didn't have his boots on. And then of course, because they're out in the dirt and they're riding along in the bumpy fields, they have the bigger tires because it helps them move through the soil and sometimes the mud, and it also is carrying a very heavy load. And then, amazing but true, some cows eat cereal and potato chips. Farmers buy leftover cereal and potato chips from factories. the farmers mix it in with the cow's usual meals of hay, corn, and grass. I never knew that a cow ate potato chips. And so, in the back of the book, it tells us about some of the words that you learned about in the book, and it also gives you some new internet sites that you can go onto and find out more about the life of a farmer and things that he does. So, thank you for joining us learning about farms all this month. Go out for a ride and look at the farms around the places where you live. See you.